people will tell me like, Katie, why are you criticizing Israel? You're creating anti-Semitism. It's like the irony is that anti-Zionist Jews are the only hope for Jews if we care about anti-Semitism. Like, that's not why I do it. It's not primarily an act of self-preservation, but that certainly happens to be, I think, an outcome. You know, like that's why it's great when you are criticizing Blinken and your last name is Blumenthal. I think that's a great thing to see. Not only because it's like I like it because I'm a Jew and it makes me, you know, it gives me some solace or sense of community to see that, but also like we need people seeing Jews speaking out against this.
Yeah, I mean, I thought about that too, that I wanted people in Iran to see that. I wanted people all around the world, especially in areas where there aren't that many Jews, to see that, because you really have to like grow up in an American city to really understand like what Jews are really like and about. You know, you have to go to like a school where they have bar and bat mitzvahs, and you start to understand they're not a bunch of Bill Ackmans and Miriam Adelsons and Rabbi Shmuley's. Right. But those are the figures that everyone sees. Those are the prominent ones.
It's really dangerous.
And they control the institutions along with the Pritzkers, Penny Pritzker running the Harvard Corporation. And it all looks like a giant Jewish conspiracy.
I know.
And in some ways it is. It's just that there are other Jews conspiring against it.
Yes, thank God. Right.
And we have like no power. Like we have no power. Like what do you get? Like if you're a Jew who what could they say about us to impugn our integrity? Like if you're a Jew who goes against Zionism, what do you get? Like your greatest hope or like the greatest thing you can achieve is to be on the Rabbinical Council of Jewish Voice for Peace.
Yeah, exactly.
You get like tear gassed at George Washington University encampment. Like that's like while you're like saying the Kaddish for Gaza. Like that's what you get. If you are like a talentless hack neocon Republican who puts on a kippah, all of a sudden you get AstroTurf to be the top podcaster in America with the mysterious number of 6 million followers, you know, Ben Shapiro. I can't possibly believe that guy is so compelling and so talented that he just rose to that position without any AstroTurfing. But it's like,
well, he
how can they impugn our integrity?
Max, he has a sexy voice.
Yeah, exactly. So, but I can't even do an impersonation of him. Yeah. But there's nothing to incentivize being an anti-Zionist Jew. Like
they can just pathologize us like we're self-loathing.
Yeah, but they will never grant us that we have the courage of our convictions when there's just simply nothing to gain from it.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. They project their own opportunism, right? Like, oh, we must be paid off, or they project their own pathologies onto us. We must have issues with our parents, or, I mean, it's just so obvious that like, who do you think is right? People who are like propagandized and raised on like tribalism and apparent self-interest, even though it's not self-interest, or people who can connect with like the suffering of other people. I mean, it's just such a no-brainer. But it's funny, a guy who I met, he's Lebanese, and he said that he didn't know that there were any good Jews until October 7th, because this is a guy who lives in Lebanon. Like, the Jews for him are Israelis, right? That's not his fault. He's not making that mistake. It's Israel who calls themselves the Jews. So they say in Arabic, right, like Yehudi, whatever, when they're talking about the Israelis. Then, you know, that's why, I mean, there's a debate about this, and I've debated this with Rabbi Yaakov Shapiro, but to me, it's a no-brainer that it's helpful for Jews to come out as Jewish Voice for Peace, or Jews against the occupation, or Jews this, Jews that, because I think it gives a lot of cover for people. It's also important solidarity, but it also is, I think, an important messaging thing to show the world that we are not this monolith, and that there is this whole tradition of Jewish resistance that, you know, rejects this, and that Zionism used to be fringe. A fringe movement. Yeah,
it did before 1967.
Right.
It was a fringe, weird movement in the U.S. I remember I was talking to just a group of guys who had just assembled in Beit Hanun, and everything around me was destroyed. This is the northernmost town in Gaza. In 2014, And this, I was talking to an older man who was showing me his house, which was just, it looked like it had been a nice house. He worked his whole life, including doing construction inside Israel to build it. And it was destroyed. Everything was gone. And he told me he spoke Hebrew and he used to have friends in Israel that, you know, he met, like they would like be the construction foreman or whatever. He'd have lunch there. And then these young guys came up to me and they were like, the Jews are fundamentally evil in so many ways. You know, I asked them, like, what do you think? Like, do you have Israeli friends?
Right.
Just to see where it would go. And they said, and I said, have you ever met an Israeli? And they said, no, we grew up under siege. We've never been allowed to leave here. That's why would they think that there was any distinction between right. Israelis and Jews in general? Or know anything about it. The only experience they have with their occupier is through drones and tanks. I mean, they rarely even see them as infantry when they come and destroy everything. And what do they put on the drones? What do they put on the tanks? What do they put on the wings of the F-16s and F-35s we give them? A Star of David, the symbol of our faith community. So why wouldn't they hate Jews? That's the Zionist vision for humanity. Right. The Zionist vision for humanity is religious warfare and sectarianism. It's why they are happy that Mohammed Jolani has taken power in Syria. Ahmed al-Shara, now that he's put a suit on, right. he's the perfect image of a Muslim in the eyes of Zionists and neocons. You know, his wife totally covers. She wears niqab. She only shows her eyes. You'll never, you know, see her or hear from her. They're on this rampage against Alawites, and they're attacking their shrines. They're menacing Christians. Everything's divided. Everything in Syria, which was pluralistic, which was a cradle of continuous human civilization, is being disappeared. And and why is the West supporting Jolani and accepting him and removing the bounty from his head? And they're soon to remove sanctions, which should have been never been, you know, in place, because he won't raise a single hand against Israel.
Right.
So this is the arrangement that Israel wants, and they're happy to see it take place in our own society. And we're starting to see sectarianism in the US take root like never before.